Hey guys, Sherman here with the Daily Dose. The weather is getting back to normal here in Gainesville. Nice and warm. I love it. I hate the cold weather. Hate it. Everyone should live in Florida. No, not really, but I don't like the cold weather at all. I want to live in like West Palm Beach or somewhere like that, where it stays warm year round. I don't like when it gets below 80, right? I don't need to see snow or anything like that ever. I can see it on TV, on a postcard, whatever. Today, we are going to be talking a little bit about boundaries. I think that boundaries are very, very important, but something that's not really talked about or really thought about when you are, for one, starting your own business. You definitely don't think about boundaries. It's all about getting the job done as fast as possible, the best as possible, but setting boundaries is definitely something that I wished I would have really been thinking about early on. Not that I've had a really bad experience with not setting boundaries, but now having boundaries and looking back, I wish that I would have set some boundaries up from day one to sort of help the process not be as stressed, that type of thing right there. So having boundaries is super important, right? But boundaries are going to be different for each person, right? Your boundaries are going to be totally dependent on you, right? So Jim's boundaries will definitely be different from Sherman's boundaries and that type of thing right there. I think the first thing that you need to do when setting boundaries, you need to identify your limits, right? Your personal limits. You need to know, what do you want? When do you want people contacting you? When do you want to be responding to, emails and phone calls and text messages and social media stuff? Like I said, in the beginning, it's sort of get it done the best way possible. You're trying to build something special, so it takes a little more work on the front end. But I definitely don't think that you have to just be totally accessible 24/7, 365 because you own the business. I was just having a meeting with one of my buddies, and we were talking about boundaries this morning, and in just different levels that we're going to in our business and different stuff that we're setting up. And he used the perfect example as far as when you go to the doctor's office, right? When you go to the doctor's office, when you call the doctor's office, you don't go in and fill out paperwork at the front desk. The doctor's not the ones there giving you the papers, right? When you go to the back and get your blood pressure taken and that type of thing, the doctor's not the one who's doing that, right?
No.
There's Judah.
No.
For the most part, the only time you see the doctor is when it's really time to see him for his specialty, whatever that is, right? Same thing with businesses. You don't have to just give people 24/7 access to you. I did that in the beginning, and it wasn't a bad thing. It helped me grow a lot, but I figured out, rather quickly that I needed to set boundaries. And especially in the CrossFit type of business, it's definitely a relationship type of business. But I learned a long time ago that it's definitely a business relationship more so than it is a friendship relationship. It's all great, like especially in CrossFit, everything is great until it's not, right? Everyone loves you until they don't, right? Everything is smooth until it's not. So I try to, obviously I try to be very nice and professional with everyone, but at the end of the day, I understand that this is a business that we're running, and we have to make sure we keep it that way with the product that we provide to everyone. So like I was saying, the first thing you need to do, you need to identify what your limits are. You need to determine, what your limits are, how often you want to be contacted, how often you're going to respond to stuff, and that type of thing. Two, you want to pay attention to your feelings, right? I'm not a really big feelings person. I sort of don't like the whole feeling thing. I don't like people live off their emotions, but you need to, when you're determining your limits, right, you may not even know. Just go by the way that something makes you feel, I want to make sure I'm saying that right, make sure people understand that. But if something makes you feel, super uncomfortable, or makes you feel guilty, or you're going to have resentment towards this person for doing something, you may need to really think about if that's going to be one of your limits. If you don't like me, if you don't like someone messaging you at 11:30 at night about something, you need to set those boundaries up. Don't respond to stuff at 11:30 at night. I know a lot of people, they respond to stuff immediately, this type of thing, regardless of what time of day it is and that type of stuff. And I used to be that way in the beginning, but after a while you figure out, have times that you want to do stuff, and those are your limits. Now, if you're really grinding and hustling, you're gonna have a lot of time to respond to stuff. So you just can't be like, oh no, I'm going out with some friends, so this is my boundaries. No, there's time when I'm out with friends still now, and I respond to stuff, and I don't have to, but I choose to, because there are certain times that I'm totally turned off, but for the most part, I'm semi plugged into what's going on. So yeah, definitely, when you are identifying your limits, if you don't know what your limits are, pay attention to the way that stuff makes you feel. When someone, treats you a certain way, someone says something to you, pay attention to how that makes you feel. As being a business owner, you're gonna are a great leader, you're gonna have to definitely have some thick skin. So you can't take everything to heart. So that's why I like to say it's sort of a catchy place. You don't want to just be a total ball of emotions and get offended by everything that someone says to you, but you have to figure out when something really makes you feel uncomfortable. You probably shouldn't do that, and there's nothing wrong with that. I like to say, give yourself permission to set boundaries. There's nothing wrong with saying no to someone. We talked about that in an earlier podcast. There's nothing wrong with saying no, right? One of the hardest things to say, or one of the hardest group of people to say no to, is friends and family, right? Some that I know personally. You have to be able to say no to friends and family, right? I know it can be tough, especially because your friends and family, they've been there with you since day one, and that type of thing. You want to make sure that you're fair and honest to them, but at the same time, there's there's boundaries that have to be set, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. I like to say, a real friend, a family member that really gets it. They're not gonna ask you to do anything that's gonna really stretch you out, and make you feel super uncomfortable, or they're not gonna get upset at you for telling them no to whatever they ask. If they do, it's their problem. That's sort of a thing that I've seen that numerous times. There's this great thing. It's called it's an ESPN documentary. It's a 30 for 30. It's called Going Broke. If you haven't seen that, it's about professional athletes who go broke. I'm not going to talk about it much, but people always say they don't understand how professional athletes go broke. If you watch this show, you will get it. You will get it. And more so, even taking away the money context, these guys' families, and they've studied these professional athletes for years and years now. Their families are the ones that are really hurting them, right? And their close friends, right? It's their friends and families, because those are the people that they trust, right? Those are the people that they trust. Those are the people that mean the most to them. And not saying that their family members mean to do it to them, but it's just natural. They want, these guys have millions of dollars, so they want money. You want to help mom, dad, cousin, niece, nephew. But money isn't always falling from the sky, like these guys will tell you, right? So there's nothing wrong with saying no to friends, family members, customers, potential customers. You just have to figure out, you got to figure out your boundaries and see, when you're going to say no. But that sort of brings me to my next point. You have to know what type of environment you're in. like I said, one of my buddies, he's a physician, and he basically gives all of his clients his cell phone number, right? So you have a procedure, you can call the doctor, you can get him or his office. He sort of skips that part. He gives them the cell phone because he says that most people, they understand that they have my number, so they're not going to call me for every little thing. He like, of course you have some people that's going to just call for any little thing, but most people, when they call you, it's pretty serious, right? And they can have direct access to you. I feel sort of that same way. I give out my personal number, my email and stuff, because I know for the most part, no one's just going to contact me asking about something very unimportant. For the most part, when they contact me, it's about something important, something that needs to be fixed rather quickly. And the cool thing about that is, if it turns into a problem, you just tell that person, hey, Ted, you've been contacting me a little too much. I need you to send me an email and I'll get right back to you as quick as possible. Or you just don't respond to that until you're ready to respond to it, right? And there's nothing wrong with that, all right? So let's make sure that we sit down, let's sit down and let's really think through, these processes. Let's think through these boundaries. What do we want our professional and personal life to look like? And let's start setting up, boundaries, categories, this type of thing right here. It's really not a tough thing to do, but it is tough because your feelings are involved. You don't want to offend people. But as you learn, being a leader, you're going to offend some people. That's just part of it. When someone gets offended, I always tell myself, that's not my problem, that's theirs. Because me personally, I don't get offended, really. If someone says something or they feel a certain way, that's them. I can't change the way someone feels. All right? So set some boundaries, right? Let's go through these again. Identify your limits, right? 2, pay attention to the way that something makes you feel, like when it happens. If someone really says something to you or treats you a certain way. 3, give yourself permission to set boundaries. There's nothing wrong with saying no. We talked about that, right? There's nothing wrong with saying no. And you have to consider your environment, right? You got to consider what type of work you do. If you're a marriage counselor but you don't want to deal with people, that's something you're going to have to deal with. So that's about all I have for today, guys. I'm going to get out of here. Don't forget, Monday through Friday, 11:45. I hope this helped. If you guys have some questions, put them below or email me, and I will respond tomorrow. So don't forget, 11:45 every day, Monday through Friday. Tell a friend to tune in. All right, I'm out.